It's so quiet. Welcome back to another video. This is Road 36 to Infinity. Road to Infinity is what this is. Let's do that again. Welcome back to another video. This is Road to Infinity, where I talk about the things that I talk about when I talk about practice. This is, again, always a way for me to share my process, and this process being me working towards finding out what my true potential is. And I'm using dance as that vehicle. It's been taking me just more effort to get to these videos. I think the moment I decided to not make it weekly, that's the moment where it started to become harder to keep that consistency. I think I mentioned it in my last video, but I'm still in a place where I'm mostly observing and reflecting about how I'm doing these videos at the moment. A lot of things processing, and I know that I am gonna make some decisions and some changes for the next chapter, which is then Road 37 to Infinity. And that would start in September, October. As I was getting ready to do this video, I realized that I was behind with a lot of the recap that I'm trying to do for myself and for you. The video I did before this was after coming back home from Japan. That was already getting into a sort of delay. What I would need to recap is April, May, and June. So this video is gonna hopefully not be too long, but I want to just recap these 3 months in order to then be back on track. And time flies. We're past half of the year. Entering July means that I'm a bit less than 2 months left until the big three start. And the big threes would be Summer Dance Forever, Random Circles, and Flavorama. These are the 3 big events I want to participate in every year, and it's for me a good point of reference to see, okay, where am I in my dance, in my development, and how has this practice year gone? I am not checking my development and my progress based on the results of those events. How do I feel in competing versus last year? For example, doing a pre-selection at Summer Dance, do I feel like I was able to show the best version of myself up until that moment? Or was I still maybe held back by thoughts of doubts, the pressure? Did I put my wanting to pass above me just showing who I am and then letting, the choices be in the hands of the judges, and then it's out of my control? Just focus on what is it that I can control. My performance. It's the final push of this year's Road to Infinity. Crazy, that's almost been a year already. In September, that would mark then the completion of 2 years of this Road to Infinity. So for this video, I'm bringing my little note, which is basically just empty pages with room to just write. And I've been doing exactly that. Sorted out what this notebook is collecting. It has 5 different categories. I give myself 2 pages per session that I write. Ideally, it would be nice to write something every day, because I think of things every day. I have an opinion about what I'm doing. I have ambitions. I have ideas that just come, or I read something and something was inspiring. So this book is meant to collect everything that is in here onto paper, so that I slowly make a transition from an idea or from something in my head to something physical and something tangible. I can only recommend people to do some kind of, what would you call this? Journaling, I guess? Writing things down, whether it's just pieces of a bigger puzzle, thoughts, something somebody said, a feedback you got from going to an event maybe, or from a session, from a class. Maybe there was an exercise that you were oof, this I really want to take with me. So anything really, write down. So in this now, I've written down my little recap for these 3 months that have been. Yeah, enough talking, and let's just get into it. We'll start with the highlights. We're talking about 3 months. In April, I arrived back in Sweden after being in Japan for 7 weeks. The moment I came back from Japan, that weekend of that week, there was an event in Amsterdam called the Solid House event, an event where the emphasis is on the transparency of the judgment that is being passed. They also had, which is the first time that I see this and which is really nice, after the pre-selections, they have like a ranking system of everybody that participated, and you can see top 16 that passed and then the rest that didn't. To see where you ranked, have an opportunity to like, okay, I see that I have to work, or you can also see who voted what. You have this event, you have these many participants, where were you on that day? And then to use that as a way of like, okay, oh, I was very close, or I need to put some work in. But I liked the transparency, which is the first time that I see. And also at the end of April, I got to perform my solo 60 seconds in Stockholm. My first time performing my solo since I did it the first time last year in Amsterdam, and also my first time performing something that I made back in Sweden. So the country where I grew up and the country where I started dancing. Yeah, it was a nice little full circle moment. April was a good month. We jump straight into the month of May. It started off with me together with my crew Majeko. We went up north to a city called Umeå, up north in Sweden, to an event called Up North. And that was my first time judging in Sweden after having been away for like quite a while. I really had a good experience, and it was a nice way of watching people dance. I think depending on what role you have at an event, the experience of seeing somebody else is different. Whether you are an audience, a participant, but not dancing, but just watching the other participants, if you're watching your opponent, and as a judge to watch two dancers perform. Depending on where you sit and with what eyes you watch with, the same happening has different experiences. I got to see some dancers in Sweden I had never seen before, and a lot of like young generation, which I was happy to see. Left me with a lot of curiosity to see where these people will go within a few years. In May, after this event, there was a kickoff for a project called Attitudes, which is something that I'm doing together with Majeko, a project inviting one group or choreographer from 6 different countries to be part of a full evening performance. We are a total of 6 groups / choreographers from Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Holland, Spain, and France. We are split into 2 groups. It'll be 2 triple bill performances. So we had a kickoff in May now for something that's gonna start in less than a year later, getting to learn about freelancing within dance, and especially when it comes to performing arts. A lot of it is, planning for future. So you might have an opportunity for something for the coming year. And like so, I think you always plant seeds for things that will happen years down the road. After being up north, it was time for me to go south. I did a 3-hour workshop, which had 2 hours of physical practice and then 1 hour of a theoretical practice, which was about the art of practice and me sharing how I practice and not helping, but maybe sharing how you can get a practice started. Something that I want to do more of. Let's see when and where that will happen. After being in Malmö, I went to Amsterdam for a bit more than a week to visit friends, teach workshops, and then I was asked to do a performance together with Alessia and Noel, a performance called Trio Number 1. And after Amsterdam, I went straight to Paris. It was a time I was given by the Swedish Institute, be given the time and space for myself, self-development. It was a lot of reading, it was a lot of making notes, developing ideas, clarifying things of where I want to go with my dance. And I also had an opportunity to exchange with a dancer I really admire, Daneshiro. So I both got to exchange and also took a class. I got to perform with the Earthbound team, which is a performance that I did in Paris before. So now we did like a small version of that at a museum, which was nice. Also last minute thing. After Paris, I continued my travels. I went to Rome for a few days where I went to participate in Time to Jack festival, where they had a house event, house-focused event. This was also my first time in Rome. I get to walk around in the city a little bit. I was amazed. It's such a beautiful city. I haven't been in Italy so much, so I will probably come back. But the event, very positive outcome. It was an open floor type of pre-selection. So we danced for, I don't remember, I think it was maybe 2 hours, is what I remember somebody saying. 2-hour dancing, and then the judges walked around on the floor and picked out the dancers that they thought should pass to the event, so top 16. And they had 2 categories. They had house dance and they had mixed styles. So in one category you danced house, and in another category you weren't allowed to dance house, but anything else. I signed up for house only, and I spent 2 hours dancing house only. But to my surprise, I was also not only picked out for the house, which I'm super happy about, but I was also picked out for the mixed style category, and I was very much surprised. I still remember how when the judge in that category gave me a ticket for that category, I looked at him being like, "Are you sure?" I entered both. In the house dance category, I made it to top 8. In the mixed style, I won. It was so unexpected. I didn't understand why I was chosen. And also to dance to house music without dancing house dance. So there was a lot of things happening within me during that day, because first of all, I had to reflect, and I started reflecting of like, what is house dance? Like, what makes something, like if I dance to house music, what makes it become house dance, and what is it then not? Because for me, I only danced house dance in my, like, that's what I'm thinking. But somehow I was also, somebody saw something else with what I was doing that they also could classify as not house dance and place me in that category. It was a lot of things happening in my mind and still processing. All good things. Like these are like good reflections, and I feel that I see myself with different eyes, and which helps me in my continuation of how I practice and my process. Anywho, made some new connections. Also shout out to Fred and Alessandra. Thank you for opening up your doors, your homes, your hearts to invite me in. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, we jump into the last month. Whew, there's a lot. In June, I started to make a slight changes in my practice. In my practice, up until then, I had like a morning practice that I would do that would be consisting of yoga, meditation, and reading, and a little bit of workout. I took away this morning practice and instead just started my day with either my physical practice, so to strengthening my body, or the Leviathan flow practice, or my dance practice. Because I've been spending a lot of time during the days as part of my research and my self-development, I spend a lot of time reading. Instead of having that in the morning for like a little bit, I removed that and added that as a bigger chunk during my day and my weeks. So yeah, slight changes, feels good doing it like this. But it's also something I've said at some point, your practice is never rigid. You change, your practice also changes. The only thing that is constant is your consistency and the fact that you are practicing. That's your constant. In my practice, I have created a way for me to keep track of how it's going, how I am practicing, how much, how little, just to keep track of everything. And in this progression tracker that I've made for myself, I also have sections for reflection, and that's a space where I talk about anything that I feel like is important to reflect about or to mention related to my practice, related to how my body feels, and then anything else that has happened. I wanted to add or expand my reflection to things that I did do, because what is easy for me is to feel that I'm not doing enough. And it can be whether it's enough practicing, whether it's enough work, research, I don't know, anything that's related to my growth. I feel like I'm never doing enough. So what I wanted to add, have a section that every day I write what I did, so that whenever I do look back and I feel like I'm not doing much, and I can just look back and then I see that, oh, actually I got this, and this done. I started this. and I can see that things are happening and that I am doing. And then in June, I also went to Austria. So that was the last stop in my traveling. And here I went to Vienna and I went to Graz. In Vienna, I went to visit a friend. Shout out Vivi, thanks for having me. Through Vivi, I also was able to teach 2 workshops. One house dance workshop or class, and then one Leviathan Flow, plus the art of practice. In Graz, I went to an event called Be The Beat. And at this event, they had 3 categories. House, 1 versus 1. They had an experimental, 1 versus 1. And they had a hip hop, 2 versus 2. And at this event, again, another positive outcome. I was a finalist in all 3 categories. I won the house 1 versus 1. And I'm enjoying and I'm happy, because even though I shouldn't fuel my motivation to practice with these events, the outcomes of these events, because then sometimes then the fuel will run very low and you won't have much to go on. Rather to see these outcomes be the result of the work I'm putting into my practice towards bigger things. And the last things I want to say about June was that I got to judge another battle in Sweden, in Malmö. Shout out to the great ones for organizing this event and for having me. I'm always grateful when people see me and think that I would be somebody that they would have at an event having that role. I also entered a battle together with my bro, Mackie. So that's my crewmate. We entered a battle called Battle of Botkyrka, which we also won. So another win, and it was also nice to win with him because it's the first battle, I think, we entered together where we win. April, May, June, it's been a lot. There's a lot to recap, and I'm really trying to make this short, but it's hard. My practice is going well. My road to infinity feels good. Like I feel positive about myself, and I also feel excited for continuing. So yeah, those were the highlights of April, May, and June. Let's continue to Trip Down Memory Lane. So Trip Down Memory Lane is a section in this video where I basically share a comparison, I guess, basically looking back at the Road 35. So if I'm on Road 36, I'm looking back at my last year's Road to Infinity. Mainly to kind of like have a look at where I was during the same period a year ago. Maybe I'll see things I was thinking that might be proof of that things have been moving forward, or also to see, also get a reminder of things that I thought of that I maybe didn't get to and that I still want to get to. And then it's a reminder, it's a conversation with my past self. A lot of videos to look through. I think it was 11, which covered then April, May, and June. Wow, this is hard. I realized that I just made notes about each video, but I didn't really check what would be worth mentioning, so I'm sorry about that. But basically, one thing that stood out to me was that I went to an event last year in April to Barcelona called Invictus. And at this event, I remember I was very, very disappointed with my performance, because here I entered both hip hop and house. Mainly I was there for house, and I passed to the top 16, and then that's where it stopped. Passed the pre-selection, but then in the first round I lost. And I remember that really hit me hard, because I felt like I should have gone further, and that because I didn't, I started doubting my practice. I started doubting how I was practicing and the things I was practicing on. And my only thought was, I need to change my practice. Because again, at this time, my main focus of my practice was to get myself ready for Summer Dance Forever. And then because I couldn't pass further than top 16, I felt like the work I was putting in was not enough. At the time of the recording of this video, I had been doing my conscious practice, so this Road to Infinity, for 5 months. I had a conversation with a friend. He made me realize that, okay, 5 months is not a lot of time. And also that I should change my mindset of, instead of thinking that I need to fix my practice, that is not good enough, instead to have patience with my practice and continue and continue, and not to focus on the results. With time is something I really started to realize more and more, that the focus of my practice, for me at least, cannot be on the results. It needs to be bigger than that, because the results of an event is these like short-term goals, whereas what I want to be striving for is beyond. Like I've been talking about my true potential, and my true potential is a goal so like long distance that these small steps should more be indicating of, okay, maybe I can just put in more work. I'm not there yet, but not necessarily that what I'm doing is wrong. Also, during this period between April and June last year is when I started doing residency. This is when the process started for my solo 60 seconds. That was a big moment for me to get that space to work on creating something of my own, for myself, by myself, to share. I also remember that during this period, so I think it was between April, end of April, beginning of May. So after having had 5 months of consistent practice, so this was after coming back home from Invictus, I had 1 week where I didn't practice at all. Cannot remember why I never got to practicing. There were things happening during that week, but I couldn't make any time for my practice. I don't know if that poor performance in Spain hit me so hard that I was just demotivated. I was out for a week. I don't know if that was the case, but I remember that after having had consistency for so long, and then 1 week where I was without, it was doing a lot of like, mental work, because there was a lot of doubts and a lot of like, but I got back into it. Just, realizing that it's super hard to build a consistent practice, and it's super easy to stop, to value the work that is being put in, and that every day I can check off that I've been consistent with my practice, which means that it's a step forward, that every time I take a step is a moment to really be grateful, really to not take it for granted. Give yourself props whenever you have a consistent practice, and when you're doing something for a while and you're taking steps towards your goals, always give yourself thanks for doing so. I also had times struggling or dealing with the time issue. I think I remember that was a lot last year, that I felt like I always didn't have enough time for practice. And this is a time where I also started developing or making my practice adjustable. I started making versions of my practice in order to have an ideal version, less ideal, and then less ideal. So always having like a shorter version in time, so that no matter how much time I would have during a day, there would always be enough for me to get my practice done. Having done this, it helped me a lot, and helps me still today to keep my consistency, because it's not about how long we practice, it's about the quality we put in to the time that we have. The thing that happens when we don't, or when I don't practice, is that there's like somewhere a fear of that everything that you've been building up, that you will lose that, which is not true, but that's what I've been thinking. It's kind of like lose, or like as if I would go backwards in my development. For every steps I took forward, if I don't practice, it's like 2-3 steps back, and that's not true. Oh, also something that I started noticing is that my logo for Road to Infinity changed. Today I have like a version that I feel like this is pretty much at the moment the definitive version of Road to Infinity. Contacted an amazing graphic designer, Chiara. Chiara helped me out with making this version that I have now for my logo. Thank you, Chiara. There's a lot. I'm just trying to see like what is important to not make this video too long. Something that I was seeing here by watching these videos is like already in May, June, so it's almost a year ago, is the moment I started the mission of collecting my variations that I still haven't done. So I still have a lot of videos to go through. I still want to do it. I don't understand why I'm not getting to it. May this be a reminder that don't give up. If you set a goal for yourself and you truly want to get it done, don't give up, even if you keep postponing it. In June last year, I started to have a segment in my videos called Kinda Did versus Didn't. I'm like now looking at it, I'm questioning, why would I do that? Why would I, because I knew somewhere that there were more things I didn't do versus the things that I did. So highlighting more on like what is not happening, I feel like it's kind of counterproductive. I think I also just was searching for things to share and ways of sharing things at this point of making my videos. This search of like making these videos interesting. Again, I'm looking for the definitive version of these videos. If we'll ever find it, I don't know. And that's it. Thank you, Notebook. That is 3 months of a recap, and that's a lot. But basically, what I want to say after all of this is that things are going well, and I sure hope that the same is true for you in your process, in your practice. I hope you're also giving yourself a pat on the back and saying thank you to yourself, and that you're doing good enough. You are doing good enough. That's it for this video. I think it's a lot already. It's too much. I really need to get back on a certain consistency with when I make these videos. But we're getting closer to the end of Road 36 to Infinity, and I can't wait for the big 3: Summer Dance, Random Circles, and Flavorama. Let me know in the comments below if you're going to any of these events, so hopefully I'll see you there. I don't say it often, but do give this video a like if it is something that you do. It'll help me hopefully to reach out to more people. And yeah, if you think that this channel is something worth supporting, which you are already doing, but if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and let people know. Again, we're building on a platform where the topic is practice, the topic is progression, process, the road towards finding your best version, whether it's in dance or something else. But dance is what I am focusing on. And I hope that you're enjoying your practice and that you remain curious of finding out what your true potential is. And I'll see you in our next video.